Let's get this thing rolling, man. What's happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are super excited to have you all. We're going to give everybody, per usual, a couple of minutes to jump in, and then we will get things started. This is a slightly different style class than our 101. We're just kind of tonight's goal is to get people prepared to start planning out those trips, whether you're planning a trip, next weekend in your backyard or you're planning a trip for the summer halfway across the country. We're going to hopefully from start to finish walk you through at least one way to do so and then send you off to figure out the best way that works for you. So, as mentioned, we'll give everybody maybe a minute or so here to join and then we will get things started with some housekeeping. All right, 7:01. We're going to start fairly promptly. No more waiting. Let's get things going. First thing I did want to cover is, as always, let everyone know your video and your sound are off. So no matter where you are in the world, no matter what you got going on around you, you don't no need to worry. The only way that you can interact here is going to be in that chat or in the Q&A. And so that's the next thing we want to cover is just kind of running through those two different areas to jump in. The chat, drop in there to let us know where you're joining, maybe find a new fishy friend to be able to jump out on the river with. And then that Q&A, that's going to be the area to drop any questions that you have right now or as the night goes on. And we will answer all of those questions. That is why Michael from our CX team is here. Shout out to Michael for hanging out with us tonight. So he will be kind of hanging out in the background while we go through things tonight, answering any of those questions you might have. Chat is disabled. Let's make sure we change that before we go any further. There we go. All right, now you should be able to chime in where you're joining us from and find those fishy friends. Can't hear. Michael, can you hear me all right? Can. All right. Brett, hopefully it's just the sound, maybe volume thing on your end. I will try to speak up a little bit and make sure that we can hear everybody. All right, awesome. Looks like we got people chiming in, so let's get rolling. Next thing I wanted to just mention is that the video from tonight's recording will be uploaded to the Trout Routes YouTube channel tomorrow morning. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. Whether you join on late tonight or you have to jump off early, you can always find that recording on our YouTube channel. Or if you want to refer back to it 6 months from now when you're planning a trip midsummer somewhere, this will always be there for you to refer back to as an education tool. All right, so let's dive right in. First thing we're going to cover tonight is just kind of recap. We haven't had a master class in a while. It's the first one of the year. We're super excited to get back to them, but there's some things that have happened in the app. So we want to kind of jump in, run through what's happened in the app, some of the things that have gone on, some of the updates that have happened, and make sure that everybody is aware of them. The first one, I'm going to go ahead and share my first screen here, which is going to be my mobile device, which tonight will be my iPad, just so that we have a little bit more screen real estate there. And we will start to jump into some of these. All right, first screen. For those of you who have downloaded the new update, you might have seen this. This is going to be a new screen that is going to, until that you connect your account with an Onyx account, if it is not already connected to one, you are going to see this notification. Go ahead and do so because that's going to get you in on being able to, as we jump over to the Onyx platform, first access to things like recent imagery, tracker, all of those tools that you, if you're an Onyx user already of any of the verticals, know and love, those are going to be soon coming to Trout Routes. The team is working hard on the back end, and this will make sure that you get access to all of those. For now, I'm going to skip that just so that we don't have to go through that all together, but did want to make that call out before that we dive in. Next thing is, for those of you who maybe haven't jumped into the app since last summer, or maybe even earlier than that, The map looks a little bit different. It looks a little bit cleaner, hopefully. We have gone through, and our product designer has made some really clean updates along with the rest of the team to simplify things a little bit when it comes to iconography, but also hopefully outline those trout lines a little bit better. You can see the gold medal, the larger water, is showing up physically wider and larger than some of those class 3 waters, which is already just like an easy way to kind of decipher some of that water, pick through, maybe filter through some of that, which we'll dive into ways to filter even deeper here shortly. So the next thing that was introduced is going to be the peak card. We'll jump more into this when we jump into the stream card itself, but did want to just show off that the new peak card is available. You can see we've got a few different options, one of which is going to be our super awesome and new Trout Routes exclusive fishing reports that are specific to some of those rivers out west. We've got a few new ones coming as well in the spring here, so excited to dive into that a little bit here shortly. But this is where that you can get a really quick view. You can choose which information is most important to you. You can get a quick view of some of that information that is already in the stream card, but just at a little bit tighter view. If you want to only view those access points to really help you break down a river, that's going to be able to help you do so. If you only care about the stream flow and those gauges on the rivers there, this is going to help you be able to dive into those really quickly and easily. So that peak card is just a way for you to be able to kind of jump in and decipher and find the specific information that you might be looking for each river. Each new river that you click on is going to bring up that ability to choose the specific peak card view by river, which is really nice. Some rivers have more information, some have less. So you're going to be able to choose specifically based on that river what information you want to view first. Clicking back out here, the next thing that we want to jump into is going to be some of those AI stream overviews. If we click into some of these click into the river itself, you can see if we swipe up, we're going to have some of these AI stream overviews that are going to be able to help you get a quick understanding of that stream running from the Yellowstone through the Gallatin. It's going to be able to help you kind of decipher some of those sections as well. And again, be able to just kind of break down some of those sections. So we're super excited to be able to start introducing those and helping people understand the specific waterways and maybe why that they're so famous, what some of the top features in those sections are. Just helps you start to understand them even deeper without having to peel through all of the information in the stream card that we'll dive into here in a bit. The next thing is those river report videos that I mentioned here. Those are going to be accessible in the peak card. And if we swipe up, we can see that we get rid of those. So that's going to be accessible in that peak card. We can click into these, and these are going to be updated.
Hey folks, Mike Pagoda here, owner and outfitter
fairly regular basis.
Fly fishing, and I'm
and
here
start
for
to
your
break
Upper
down.
Madison.
As you can see, start to break down those river reports specific to trout routes. So these are being recorded by guides who are fishing those waters in real time and giving real time updates for us. So super excited to be working with those guides and those fly shops to bring you those reports. The next thing that we are very excited about, and we're excited to continue to expand this one nationwide here. Hopefully by the time that spring and summer and the peak season really rolls around, but has been introduced to states out west is, as you can see in the area that used to have our state select and snap to state feature, is now getting a filter for species. So we are super excited to introduce this in the most recent update for California, Washington, Oregon, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, and Idaho, as you can see there, with more states coming soon, as I mentioned. Hopefully by the time peak season rolls around, we'll have the vast majority of the nation covered. What this is going to do is it's going to start allowing us to filter by species. So if we know what species of not only trout, but salmon, we can get down into the steelhead, cutthroat. We've got a cutthroat specific filter to even get, as you can see, we've got all of the different cutthroat variations in there. So if you want to start to target and try to catch them all, as everyone likes to say, you can start to dive in there, as well as whitefish. You know, if you're looking to take some fish home and smoke them for fish dip or whatever it might be, that's where you can start to filter by whitefish rivers, which, you know, I know a few people who like to do that. So, all right. We can click out of that because we are going to be diving more into there. I promise. That's some super exciting information, I know. And it's a new one. So make sure that not only are we going to be diving into it tonight, But if you don't have the app up right now, make sure that you play around with that one a little bit, either tonight after the class or the next time that you're planning out a trip in the app. All right, so that kind of gives the quick overview of some of the main things that we've brought to the app recently. So now we're going to jump into the meat and potatoes of the night, we'll call it, and that's going to be planning a trip from start to finish. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to stop sharing my mobile screen, take a drink of water. All right, and let's dive in. So for those of you who don't know, maybe you're new to Trout Routes or simply haven't accessed the web maps. This is one of my favorite things that I want to show off to start the night because it is sometimes the place that I start when planning a trip, simply because of the fact that the larger screen real estate is always nice. So the first thing I want to do is show off our web maps. The web map is going to be accessible. If you're searching just troutroutes.com, that's going to take you to the marketing site. You'll be able to find a link on there, or if you simply go to maps.troutroutes.com, that will take you to the web map side of things. What this is going to be is not exactly a one-to-one representation of what you might find on iOS, but it is going to have some of those similar functions and capabilities. And anything that you do within the web map here with some of that larger screen real estate is going to show up within the mobile app itself. So, like I mentioned, you're still going to have a lot of those similar tools. The filtering is going to be slightly different, a little bit more pared down. You're still going to have those map layers, which we'll go over in the mobile app here shortly. But one thing I did want to show is that anytime you use any of the tools, specifically the tools where you're creating content, like our custom markers, our custom lines, or custom shapes, are all going to show up there when you open the app in on any of your other devices, whether it be your tablet, your phone, any device that you're logged into that is tied to this account, it will be represented there. So to show that off, let's go ahead and create a shape here, and we can see that when we jump back into, go ahead to create the shape, that when we jump back into the app, we'll be able to see this shape. So to do so, as you saw, I clicked up on that shape, create custom shape button there, and started clicking and clicked to find the different corners for this shape. And to close that shape, I'm going to press enter or return, and that will bring up the ability to name the shape. We can put Masterclass. We'll make it a green. We'll make it small. We can change the width. We can change the outline type. We can change the opacity of the fill. We can change the outline opacity. A lot of different options here that allow us to get really detailed. You know, one thing I like to use this for personally is maybe marking out some territory where it maybe is some bass water or something like that. I like to tend to use this for other species, particularly to get really customized and start to maybe break out of the trout realm even. But you know, it can be used for many things, and this will be just one example. You can add notes, add photos, and this will just be one example. Like I mentioned, I'm already looking down at my screen right now, and you can see it's already on my screen. I can share it here shortly, but the shape as I closed it, as I saved it, immediately popped up right here in front of me without even having to close the app. So that shows how real time and how connected the two are, which is awesome and allows you to be able to, as I mentioned, use the larger screen real estate of a desktop, of a laptop, whatever it might be, to start exploring and maybe not straining your eyes as much if you're just using your phone. That's even why I like to use the tablet sometimes if I'm hanging out at the house. But if you're trying to save markers or things like that ahead of time, you can do so on your desktop and know all of that will be on the devices that you want it to be on when you want it to be there. All right. So jumping back into the mobile version, as I mentioned, that's going to be where you'll really get the best experience when it comes to all of the features and capabilities that we have been pumping into Trout Routes lately. So there we go. First off, as mentioned, you can see there's the shape that we just made over on the web map side already showing on our mobile side here. So with that, I want to start by kind of talking through some of our membership options. And to do so, we're going to use our map layers. So within our map layers, which is accessible down on the right, the bottom right side, just above the tool that takes you to your location, which is going to be on that little kind of circle there. The one right above it, that's the squares stacked on top of each other. We'll call it layers stacked on top of each other, is going to pull up this screen. And to show off our different map modes, or I should say different subscription levels, we're going to use those map modes. So the basic map mode, this is going to show you what basic Trout Routes is going to be. If you join and you just go ahead and become a free member or a basic member, we call it, this is going to be what you will see. And it's still useful. I will say, we have a lot of users on this who are maybe just looking to confirm whether a stream has trout in it or not. And this, at its very basics, is going to do the job there. Any of these blue lines within that basic mode are going to let you know that, okay, this stream is a designated trout stream, designated trout water. From there, when you upgrade to Pro, you are going to unlock not only numerous features, but also all of that rich data that's going to be now species data. We're going to have public land data, which is going to help you really start to navigate all of those things, as well as unlocking all of the data within the stream card, like stream flows, things like that. So let's jump into that. Pro is going to give you access to all of that, and then the first thing that you'll see when you upgrade to either Pro or single state is going to be that guide mode. Pro is obviously going to get you access to our nationwide plan, that's going to be Pro is going to be the plan that's been around since we became a paid product, whereas single state is a newer product that we introduced just last year, earlier in the year. I'm sure you've all been excited about it. It's been a big thing for us. For those of you who might not travel state to state, maybe you live in a large state and you just getting out of state takes a lot longer, and so you don't have to go that far to be able to fish good water. The single state option has taken off for those anglers and is really a great option as well. Again, that will just get you all of the information that you would expect from the Pro nationwide product in just one state. Fairly self-explanatory, I guess, right? All right. So when we dive into Pro here, as mentioned, we are on the guide mode. This is going to be the one that you get dumped into when you are in that paid version. Guide mode is going to be the mode that we like to show off the most. It's the one that is kind of the best way to break down water, but you do have access to the access layer, which if we jump into the map legend here, you can see it's going to help you break down public versus easement sections, private sections. We will show you some ways to dive into that within the guide mode here shortly. And then regulations, especially out west. This is one that guides and even just, uh, uh, anglers who might be new to things like that, really start to find advantages through this map mode by breaking down some of those regulations. If you're fishing in a new state, sometimes it's a little overwhelming to understand and try to break down some of those. So this layer is going to be able to help you break it down. There are other ways to be able to see regulations and things like that within Trout Routes. We will dive into that here shortly within the stream card there. So let's dive back into that guide mode. Just as mentioned, this tends to be the mode that most users use, and we love to show off the most just because we feel as though it harnesses the Trout Routes specific classifications best. As you can see, we've got multiple different colors of water across the map. Again, here, if we jump into that map legend, we can see it's broken down by gold medal, class 1, class 2, and class 3. As mentioned, this is going to be a Trout Routes proprietary classification system. When we started building out the entire country with trout water, we realized that, okay, a gold medal stream in Wisconsin or Minnesota is quite different than a gold medal stream in Pennsylvania, and is even different than a gold medal stream out west, right? And so with that, we created the proprietary classification system that is super easy to digest. And one way to do so is clicking into that stream card. We'll jump into this quick. But right within the stream card here, you can see that it's ranking things based on fishery quality, public access, and total trout designated length. So this is going to take into multiple different factors. You might see a state rated class one or gold medal stream, however your state does it, that maybe doesn't have great public access, and Trout Routes might have that listed as a class one or class two stream, whatever it might be, because that we are trying to focus on helping anglers find new access. And if a stream doesn't have great access, we're not necessarily trying to highlight it as much in the app and send anglers there, obviously. All right, moving right along. Back into map modes, that's going to kind of show the base map modes there. From base map, we have options, not only 2D and 3D, that's become a kind of standard, right? If you want to start exploring some of those canyons, we can jump into 3D. That's going to dive us into that. And with two finger swipe, so two fingers on the screen swiping up, we can start to explore some of that topography, no matter which base map we're in. From here, we can start to explore it via our topo. As mentioned, we can explore all of these via that two finger swipe in 3D mode there. And then one of my favorites, satellite, being able to really start to understand what some of these areas, what some of these canyons, things like that might look like in your area that you're looking to fish. So 3D and those base maps start to get you beyond just that guide and roads base layer, which is where you'll be dumped into and kind of the standard that a lot of people stick to, but you do have the option to start switching from there. All right, let's back out, recenter ourselves where we want to be here. So that's kind of talking about the ways to kind of move the map around and access the map in terms of changing up your view, right? The next thing I want to talk about is moving around the map. As you can see, we were just moving around. How are we doing so? So that's going to be pinching and zooming, fairly accustomed to that, hopefully with other mapping apps that you might have used before. But we also have the ability to search, whether it be streams, whether it be town names, things like that, and you can quickly and easily jump to any of those as well. So we can, although we're right here, we can jump to a fly shop, things like that. Those are all going to pop up within that search and be super easily accessible with one click. Awesome. So that's kind of moving around the map. As you noticed, we did get rid of the state select and jump to state button. That is a decision that we made just based on cleaning up the map a little bit and based on the frequency in which users used it. As you notice, though, we have started to introduce some filtering, species data, things like that up in that same section. So we are putting that area to use, good use, as I would say. All right, moving right along. As mentioned, this is a little bit new framework here, so I want to make sure we're staying on track with showing all the things from start to finish, and I'm not skipping over anything. One thing I did want to call out is that Snap to State, you will see, is still on the web version as well as Android. So if you jump back into the web version or you have that pulled up, that Snap to State is still there where the species filtering is now in iOS. So did just want to make that call out that, again, the parity isn't exactly one-to-one at this point. All right, now that we know how to move around the map, let's really start to understand how we want to plan out our trip. So if we're looking to plan a trip from start to finish, the first thing that we have to understand and figure out, I guess, is where are we fishing? Is it in my backyard? Am I looking to plan a trip, for the weekend here? Am I planning a trip for the summer with some friends, by myself, a big road trip, whatever it might be? So once we know that, we can, go ahead and search there. We can go ahead and pinch and zoom and we can scroll to that state, right? But we want to center ourselves wherever we might be or be interested in. Again, for the sake of tonight, we're going to kind of center ourselves here in the Bozeman kind of general area. Starting there, we now know where we want to go. Now we have to figure out what fish are we looking for? With that, we can now dive into species data. So again, this isn't going to be available in every state, but it is one of the reasons that we are going to dive into Montana tonight because it will start to show one of the first things that I would do if I were planning a trip out west this summer would be to use that species data. As Midwesterner, I don't really get to target a whole lot of cutthroat. So from the jump, I know I want to start to figure out, all right, where are my cutthroat streams? I don't necessarily care. From there, all right, looks like it's a lot of that water. Amazing. That gives me a lot of ideas of where I can start to pare things down, right? If we jump in here, we can even get rid of some, and we can say we just want to target west slope. Let's go ahead and apply that. And you'll see we started to pare down even further. So from there, we now know, all right, this is where we can go to start targeting west slope trout, cutthroat trout. So this is, again, as Midwesterner, something I don't get to target a lot. So it would be the first place that I would start to jump into, start to utilize. But, maybe I also want to throw some mountain whitefish in there because I do want to have the ability to maybe take some fish home, camping, whatever it might be. You want to harvest some fish, harvest some whitefish. Uh, as you can see, we just added some more streams to our arsenal of where we might be able to start exploring. Next thing that I would jump into is going to be deciding what size water do I want to explore. As you can see, we've got those numerous different classes here within even just this initial area that we're searching. So now I have the ability to decide, do I want to fish some of the, nationally known streams? Those are going to be those gold medal streams, right? Do I want to fish some of the best water in the state, which are going to be those streams or sections that are that class one, that brighter green? Or do I want to start to maybe break away from the crowds, be alone, maybe not see anybody, fish some maybe untouched fish or less pressured fish at the very least. And then I can start to dive into some of that class two and class three water. Once you've decided that, one way that you can start to filter down even further is by jumping into that filters, which again is going to be down in that toolbar down on the very bottom on the far right side. It's going to open up our filters and map settings. First thing that we're going to see is those stream classes. So say, I don't necessarily want to fish the best water or nationally known water. It might be some of the busier water. I don't necessarily want to be at some of those top spots, but I would maybe fish some of the best water in the state. And other than that, I really want to break away and find some of those, higher, maybe go on a hike, things like that, things that take a little bit more effort. Find some of those unpressured cutthroat up in those regions. That's going to be able to, again, you can see we now have a few less options. We still have a lot of options being out in Montana, but we have a few less options to start to parse through and understand. For the sake of just looking at access and being able to show off the app better, I'm going to select all of those so that we can start to see some of the other ways to dive into a stream. But again, those that first filter is going to be able to start to help us peel through. From there, I want to jump into the filters and map settings really quick just to show off a few other things. We are going to have our partner content bridges. We'll show this off when we jump into a stream specifically. We will see bridges. If we mapped out all of the bridge icons at every level, it might get a little cluttered. So we have built bridges and the ability to understand whether a bridge is public, or you'll see shortly, click into Google Street View with one click via that stream card and stream selection with those orange bridges, which we'll see shortly here. From there, we have those different pro layers. As mentioned, these are going to be any of those layers and filters that you get access to once you upgrade to either pro or single state public land. As you can see, we have those green land overlays, which are not necessarily going to be the one that we created, but these green public land parcels, which we can click into and find more information about. Those are not only going to help you be able to understand where public sections of the water are, but we do have our shading on the water. So even if we were to turn off those public parcels, we'll still be able to understand where some of that public water and public land is. So we're going to leave that one off for now as we start to dive in, just so that we don't get any clutter within the map. Sometimes those layers make it a little bit hard, especially if you're looking at satellite. That green overlay might make it a little bit hard to be able to use that satellite layer to its best capabilities. Next one down is going to be that fishing access point. That'll be that big bright blue icon that you see all over the map. That is going to be the main icon within the app. That's going to be able to be going to show you those designated fishing access points. It's going to have good parking, good access into the water, and is going to be an area where you can really start to get your feet in the water. But we'll show you how to break away from some of those spots, be able to find some of the sneakier accesses potentially. We've obviously got parking, camping, trailheads, boat ramps. We've got dams that's going to be able to help you identify some of those tailwaters. We've got trout stocking, trout lakes, habitat projects. We show all of the fly shops within your region. So anytime that you're out on the water and you realize you need some more flies or you're losing tippet, you're running out of tippet, whatever it might be, you can open up the app, find the closest fly shop, hopefully not waste too much time and get back out on the water quickly. Stream gauges, we'll jump into that more here shortly. Tributary boundaries, this is going to be specifically right now in the Midwest. It is something as we grow our capabilities for migratory anglers that we will likely be building out for all of those migratory streams. And then we've got those miscellaneous. If you like a county state overlay, just so that, if you have different regulations county by county in your state, this might be a layer that you would want toggled on so that you would be able to see where those specific county lines are, especially if you're fishing a river that might flow through multiple counties. Persistent settings. This is one that I will generally recommend to people that they turn on. Persistent settings is going to be where, as you're filtering through, sometimes you might be making decisions that you only want for one trip so that you can start to plan that trip out. But typically, when I'm changing my filters and deciding on filters, I'm choosing it because that's how I want my app experience to be. The persistent settings is going to be able to set those settings. So anytime you go back and open the app, that's going to be those settings that will be there. You won't have to go back and set those same filters and things every time that you jump into the app. Lock filters enabled. This is going to do the same thing, but just when you change from map mode to map mode, it will make sure that those persistent settings are there across map modes. Snap to stream. This will be, if you want to turn that on, it'll just take you and zoom you into a stream. Sometimes it can be a little bit jarring for users. I typically have that turned off, so it keeps it at a little slightly less zoomed in level when you're exploring, especially if you accidentally tap on a stream. It can be a little bit jarring to all of a sudden get snapped into that area, especially if you didn't mean to click there. Zoom fade enabled. This one, I'm gonna have to remind myself actually, sets stream access points when you zoom out, so this one's just gonna make the map a little bit cleaner as at those specific zoom levels. This is gonna be, again, intentionally selected zoom levels by our product team. Google Maps default, this is going to be where you'll go. This is one of our most frequently asked questions, especially for those who are using it on their phone when they go to jump into the app and attempt to get directions. It will ask you, especially the first time that you're doing it, it will ask you which mapping application you want to use. If you select the wrong one or at some point along your user journey, you switch your mapping application, people are always like, how do I go to change which default mapping application I want my directions sent to from Trout Routes? This will be where you'll go when you have Google Maps default toggled on. Anytime you click for directions, it will open up your Google Maps app. If you have this toggled off, it will open up Apple Maps app specifically on iOS. All right, that's filtering. That's kind of the first way that you would start to kind of pare down some of the water, understand what some of the different sections and things like that you might want to target are based on your preferences. From here, we've now narrowed it down by species, but we still have, again, as we've selected all of those different classifications, we've still got a bit of water to parse through here. The first way I would do so, and we're going to dive into it how you would specifically do it on Trout Routes. Again, for Onyx users, you're likely familiar with those public parcel shadings. We turned those off and intentionally because I want to show you the way that we've also highlighted public access specific to Trout Routes that is shown right along the streamline itself. So if we zoom in a little bit, we can see some of these sections of river have an outline to them. It's a slightly darker color than the rest of the streamline is. And if we zoom in, there are sections where the river loses that border or that shading on the outline, whatever you might want to call it. Those sections are going to be the sections of a river that flow through private land. So as you can see, this small little class 3 stream, class 3 section of this stream that we have designated as a trout stream at the very least, is designated as private land as shown by, not without even having that public land parcel data on, shown by the streamline is fully running through private land. Again, anywhere that this river then gains that dark shading is going to designate that that section of the river, at least one side, touches public land. From there, we can turn back on those public land parcels and see that that's going to line up with all of that public land and starting to understand some of those sections that you can break away from the access point and start to, you know, jump into sections again that might have less pressured fish, less people on them, whatever it might be, whatever your intentions are. From here, I see that this section, specifically this general area that we've got selected of the Gallatin here has a lot of access. Not only does it have designated access points, but it has a lot of access, and a lot of the river here is obviously flowing through public land. Again, we can always click into that public land and see what type of public land is, who the managing agency is, things like that. If we want to dive deeper, understand if we might be able to camp there, things like that. But we also see that there's a lot of designated parking. Those are going to be some of the places that I might just start to look as areas that you might be able to jump into the water again that aren't designated access points. So might not show up in all some of these other places might not show up in all of the state resources, but are known parking spots where you can pull off and still be able to access the water. So from here, we see that there's a lot of other public land and public access around. So what I would start to do is start to just tap into some of these waterways and start to learn what the river name is. And this is where it's going to introduce not only that peak card, as we talked about here, which we can select what we want to view, but if we swipe up, it's going to introduce the stream card. Again, this is another thing that we actually redesigned over the last 6 months or so, and is much cleaner. It's going to help break down that river and understand how much public shoreline there is, how many access points there are, how many boat ramps there are for those of you who might be looking to drift certain sections or drift rivers, and how many campgrounds are on that river. Especially if you're looking at some of those high alpine creeks up to those alpine lakes. Camping is important, and understanding how many camping opportunities might be available can go a long way, especially if you're trying to peel through a lot of different rivers or creeks or whatever it might be. Getting that quick glance there is a great way to be able to break that down and understand the water really quickly. From here, within the stream card, we can learn a lot. We will jump back into a gold medal stream card just because it does show off the stream card capabilities a little bit more and harnesses a little bit more of that data. As mentioned, we have some of those overviews there. We have the ability to jump into the classifications, but this is where we get into the real chunk of information here, and that's going to be the overview of details. So this is going to be where we can jump into that fishing elevation profile. I really like to use this for a couple of different things. Plans out a walk and wade trip. If you're again looking for some of those high alpine creeks, you might be blue lining. The elevation profile can be a a huge way of understanding, okay, how strenuous is a hike along a section of a river going to be? What do I need to maybe prepare myself for? So that is one of the first things that you can use. And one of the cool features is if we try to zoom out on the map here, we can see that as we scrub along, there we go, you can see that actually scrubbing right along. And if we zoom in, we can see exactly where that elevation is on the river. One of my personal favorite things. Within here as well, we can always get a breakdown of that river information again. It's going to help you understand stream characteristics, access and approach, insects and flies that might work at certain times of the year, restrictions. This is going to be able to, again, help you break down some of those regulations and restrictions in a different area than just trying to use that specific regulations layer. Access laws. This is one, especially if you're traveling to a new state, that becomes helpful. Streambed access laws across the entire country vary from state to state. So knowing whether you can keep your feet wet and continue on no matter where you are, public versus private land, is definitely something that is important to know. You know, whether you're in Montana or Colorado, your ability to explore sections of rivers is going to vary fairly greatly. So definitely something to familiarize yourself with, not only if you're exploring a new state, but always something good to brush up on and just make sure you know what is legal in your state as you're exploring this year. We are going to link out to all of those resources where we're pulling all of that access information, like BHA, where we're pulling all of that great access laws and things like that. So shout out to the team over there for making that very easily digestible and allowing us to be able to bring that into the app. Species. This is a newer section to the stream card. Again, this is going to be an area where you'll be able to understand what species are present within those rivers and be able to help to, inform trips. Maybe you're making decisions again based on certain species that you're looking to target at certain times of the year or on certain trips, whatever it might be. This will be coming nationwide here soon. Next up in the stream card that you're going to be able to find is going to be those fishing reports. So we are going to have those harnessed here. It's going to be able to help you break down, be able to see historical data as well. So as we grow a library of these, it's going to be really exciting to help users be able to look back. Okay, there's a fishing report for last year at this time. I can start to jump ahead and maybe try to use those same tactics that worked last year and then go from there and maybe make some changes as you're on the water and seeing what's happening in real time. But this at least just gives you a way to be able to prepare and maybe grab the right flies from the fly shop before you head out. Continue on, stream flows. We all know stream flows are huge. We bring in all of the USGS stream gauges, all of the Colorado specific stream gauges. Multiple different stream gauge networks are implemented right into the app and right into the stream card. We can go ahead here and view all. This is going to allow us to break down sections again of the water, potentially inform us on which section we might want to start on based on, if it's a rain event. This can also help us decide which river do we want to start on. And one of the ways that I like to be able to start to inform myself of that is by saving some of these stream gauges, which you can see down on the far right side is going to be that bookmark mark there. As we select those, that's going to be able to save our stream gauges, which we'll jump into here later in the My Content, but it allows us to be able to find a really quick, easy access to any of those stream gauges we save, river gauges we save across one specific river or across multiple different rivers, depending on how you might want to use those gauges. Moving down access points, this is going to be the section that's going to help you break down those access points and break them down by the access point type. So if you're looking for, again, a campground to be able to camp, or if you're specifically just looking for parking spots to be able to break away from those designated access points, this is where you'll be able to start to dive into some of those specific access points. You always can view all of them. A lot of different parking opportunities. It's going to help you understand at what river mile that is located at as well. So you can start to figure out how far up you might want to go, especially if it's a longer river with as many river miles as some of those larger Western rivers. The next one down in the card here is going to be fly shops, as mentioned. You'll be able to find them on the app. You'll be able to search for them, or you'll be able to pull all of the closest fly shops to any of these rivers. So again, this is super useful if you're planning a trip out of state. If I'm planning a trip to Pennsylvania or I'm planning a trip out west. I typically want to stop at a fly shop and make sure that I not only get some local intel, but grab some bugs that are specific to that area. And you can always find those fly shops that you might want to start at right within the app here. You can get directions. You can learn a little bit more about some of those shops if they're featured shops within the app, things like that right within the stream card here. And then my content is going to be at the very bottom there. This is going to be another section where not only like those shapes, those lines or custom markers, but similarly right here within the stream card, you'll be able to save notes, add photos. If you catch a lunker on a stream and you want to be able to make sure you save that right within your app here, it's again, anything you do within your account is going to be shown across any of your devices, but also anything you do within your account is going to be specific to your account. We are not relying on any crowdsourced data. So any of those markers, notes, photos, anything you add is going to be specific to your profile and essentially kind of help you outline your own private fishing log that you can look back on for years to come, hopefully. All right. So that is the stream card. From there, we have the ability to explore the river even further once we tap into a stream. As mentioned, we now see some of those bridge icons pop up. You can see we've got a couple different bridge icons, colors. We've got that blue icon there, which is going to designate any of those private or public bridges. If we click in, we can understand whether they're private or public based on the section of water. Some states, even if it is a bridge, any bridge might be an access point. So again, another reason to, and another example of being dialed in with your state laws and things can really start to help you understand some of that sneakier potential access that might be state specific. But we saw not only that blue bridge icon, but many of these orange bridge icons. This is actually one of my favorite things in the app, especially as you're exploring a river that you might not know, whether it's in your backyard or it's across the country. These orange icons, if we click into them, you can see are going to offer us Street View. What this is going to be one click, and it's going to take us to a Google Street View of that bridge. Man, I was really hoping we had some sort of wildlife or maybe an angler in the water here. Sometimes we get lucky on those. But what this is going to allow us, as you can see, is a really quick, easy understanding of not only, okay, what is some potential access near this bridge like? What is parking near this bridge like? But what does this river look like at this section? What does the water maybe look like in September of 2024? Maybe it gives me an idea of what that water might look like in September generally. Looks fairly clear, looks a little bit low, but still looks pretty fishy, I would say. So this is just one thing, I even get caught and yelled at by my wife, just poking around on the app, sitting on the couch, looking at Street View, and she goes, "What are you looking at photos of rivers of?" And just maybe water that I might want to explore in the future. So that Google Street View is absolutely one of my favorite things to be able to start to jump into some of that. All right. Now that we've run through some of the ways to start to break down the water, start to understand the water deeper, um, one of the big things that is easily misunderstood, especially by users who are familiar with Onyx, any of the verticals within the Onyx Maps family, is where a lot of the information is harnessed, and that is by clicking on streams. Sometimes we have people who jump into the app and they just start scrolling around and are like, okay, yeah, I see all these icons, and I can click into icons and understand what access points are and things like that, but I don't even know what the stream name is. Again, I just want to remind people that all of that information is going to be harnessed in the stream card by tapping on the stream itself. So if you're maybe not getting the most use out of the app right away, start to tap into those streams. hopefully that's going to be able to be a game changer and unlock for some people to be able to start to get the most out of their paid subscription. One of the other ways that you can get the most out of your paid subscription is through those gauges as mentioned. And I'm sure you maybe are wondering, where did those saved gauges go? You talked about, all right, you now saved some of those gauges and you can understand what river you might want to attack or what sections you might want to attack first. How do I dive into that? And that's going to be in the My Content section here. So you can, if we jump into that down on the bottom tool there, we can see any of those tools that we mentioned, shapes, lines, markers are going to be saved here. Anytime that we save a stream is going to be saved here. Any of those offline maps, which we'll jump into and wrap up here shortly in a second. But any of those gauges will be saved as well. So you can see some of those are reading no data, probably frozen over in some of those sections right now. But any of the saved streams, again, across multiple different rivers or within the same stream itself, we can quickly and easily decipher what section or what river we might want to be attacking. Again, if there's a big rain event, you might have multiple different rivers that you might be able to attack, and you can really quickly check, all right, this one's running high, this one's hasn't been affected by it yet. Maybe it's downstream of some of the rain events, whatever it might be, but that'll be able to help you start to inform some of those decisions. Again, just helping you inform some of those angling decisions, making smarter decisions, spending less time with 10 to 12 different tabs open, planning a trip, making, again, those quick, informed decisions that get you on the water, get you fishing faster. That's what we're all about. All right, the next one we see here is offline maps. Let's jump into a new region. So offline maps is going to be one of the final things that I want to wrap up on because this is one of the final things that I do when I'm planning out a trip. Once I've decided what section or what river I'm going to be fishing, I always go and download offline maps, regardless of whether I know that there's good service there or not. If a freak accident happens and I lose cell service for whatever reason it might be, I want to make sure that no matter where I'm at, I can always use and rely on Trout Routes to get myself out of that jam. So the one thing I do want to call out is a couple different ways to create these offline maps, but one of the biggest things is going to be that when you are downloading offline maps, you need to make sure that you have the base map selected that you will want to use in that offline mode. So if I want to use satellite when I'm offline, because I want to have all of that really like rich, detailed data that I can maybe find trails on or whatever it might be, if I'm ever in a jam, you want to make sure that you have that base map selected when you go to download your offline map. What I typically will do, I will say, is I go and I either in tools or within my content, you can find ways to create offline maps. I'll go ahead, select that, download my offline map, and without even changing or moving the screen at all, I'll jump back into that base maps and select the roads base layer and download that as well. So that regardless of what situation you're in, right? Whether you're trying to navigate out on a road and get yourself back to a main road, or you're trying to navigate well on foot, you can have either of those different base maps that you might need or want access to. And as mentioned, that's going to be one of the final things that I do when it comes to planning out a trip and getting myself ready to get out on the water. But I want to make sure that I call out that this is just one way to utilize Trout Routes, right? Well, this is just one way to potentially go from start to finish to planning a trip. Trout Routes is really built and is for the angler who is looking to maybe explore some new water, maybe explore some access points on water that they already fish, break away from crowds, things like that. But there's ways to use it for any type of angler, any river angler, any angler that's targeting trout. You know, Again, this is one way to do it. I want to make sure I call out that there are so many different ways to put the app to use. And I really implore you to get out and figure out and poke around in the app and figure out the tools and features and things like that that are most applicable to the style of fishing that you might be doing. All right. So with that, I am gonna ask Michael to jump back on and let me know if there's any questions or things that we might be wanting to jump into that didn't get answered? Michael, you're still there? There we go. How we doing, Michael? Any questions? Looking, feeling pretty good? Things we should to maybe recover? Feel free, anyone, to jump in or drop in the chat or in the Q&A here if there's anything that you might want to go over quickly. I know we are getting close here on the hour mark, so we do have a couple minutes to maybe answer a few final things or
Yeah,
go
there are
over.
a few customers having issues connecting to the Onyx account. So if anyone's having issues and their pro account or subscription is not appearing, please reach out to support at Trout Routes, and our CX team will be able to get you guys back up and running. And you'll find that answer in the Q&A section there, and I'll post it in the chat real quick here.
Awesome. And I see some questions coming in about offline maps and just the ability to shape that. Again, one thing I will call out is our offline maps capability. We are aware is not, up to par with some of the other Onyx Maps verticals, but it is one of those things that we are putting a lot of effort into improving this year, especially as we start to get ourselves working over to the Onyx Maps infrastructure, start to look and feel and operate more like the apps that you might be familiar with already. And if not, just know that offline maps are going to be getting better, getting tighter, and your optionality there will be improved. Um, Looks like we got a few more jumping in. So Michael I'll try to answer some of these as you're responding to some of them as well. Alan, I see any chance that Trout Routes can show my current location real time? Sure can, sure thing, especially if you're on those mobile devices. That's going to be that, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be that right below where we went over those map layers. There's a circle with the four lines kind of coming in. That's going to be where you'll be able to click, and that will jump you to your exact location. One of the things I will call out is that regardless of whether you have that cell service or not, your satellite location should be able to be pulled in. And so, if you're out on the water and don't have that cell service, but you have offline maps downloaded, you can pinpoint your exact location, be able to drop a marker there and know with confidence that that's where you are. Or if you're navigating again with those offline maps, you can use that pinpoint location to know exactly where you are in relation to land boundaries, in relation to a trail, whatever it might be. Awesome. Right on. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I didn't do too bad on time there, Michael. That went a little bit better than I expected. How about that? So, thank you everybody for joining us for the first class of the year. We really appreciate it. We are looking forward to bringing you another 101 next month, as well as we're looking to bring in an exciting partner to talk about some fly lines. So if you're looking to get a little bit nerdy and a little bit technical about fly lines and the different rivers and things that you might use different fly lines on, get excited about one of our master classes coming up here next month. We're looking forward to it. All righty. Thank you, everybody. Again, watch out. Keep an eye open for the recording dropping on our YouTube channel tomorrow, and we will see you on the next class.